he would do this. So let's have a look and see. Let's get him on. Let's see. Let's see. He said he's here.
What's up?
Hi.
Hey, I heard Ben was going to be on, and I watched. So, like, I get my rugby ball. I'm ready to get out there. I'm ready to play. Let's go. Let's go. I'm here. I'm working out for the Eagles. We're going to kick ass next World Cup. Let's go.
How you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I just finished the workout, so I'm sweating. Sorry I was a couple of minutes late, but please forgive me. I'm sure you will.
That's all good.
Where are you, in Dallas at the moment?
Yeah. I'm sweating it out in Dallas. It's 90 degrees Fahrenheit.
Wow. Yeah, I played in Houston before against the women's team, the Houston Dash, and it is so humid. There's 3 places that I remember specifically playing in: Orlando, Houston, and Atlanta. And literally,
all humid.
Your kit is like, it feels like you're just in the shower all the time.
Yeah, Houston, your hair doesn't even dry. New Orleans is worse. Dallas is north, so we're not so bad.
Well, we need to get a women's team in Dallas.
You know, I'm ready. Let's go. Let's go.
What was I going to say? No, Mark, honestly, thank you so much for agreeing to do this, because, you know, I'm a massive fan of yours, and there's not many people that I feel like I look up to for inspiration. And I know you don't know the reason why I became a fan of yours, and I'm going to tell you this in a second.
Okay.
But when I was injured 3 years ago, I tore my ACL meniscus, right? And I was playing in the team in New York, and I was in a really bad place. And the 2 things that I was obsessed with watching were South Park and Shark Tank.
Perfect. They're exactly alike, right?
I used to like South Park when I was younger, but Shark Tank was like, and I was staying with family in Connecticut, in Westport, Connecticut, and they would say to me, like, oh, can we watch something else? Like, they like Shark Tank, but I would just, you know, sometimes they show it on repeat, like, all day.
All day.
Marathons, and I would just be glued to it all day. And we have another show in England called Dragon's Den.
Yeah.
You know Dragon's Den?
Yeah, of course.
And
but it's boring. It's boring compared to us.
But is that where the idea came from? Who had the idea first?
So the way it went, it was in Japan first, and then it went to the UK for Dragon's Den, and then a guy named Mark Burnett picked it up and changed it to Shark Tank because he thought Sharky was better for the United States.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I've watched Dragon's Den because one of the guys, pathetis, he used to own a soccer team in England. So, but then I wasn't really feeling it that much. So then I couldn't believe that I came across your show like before, but I just was obsessed with it when I was injured. And I just couldn't stop watching it. And then obviously it's like kind of like American Idol and X Factor. You have your favorite judge and stuff like that. And you and Robert were my favorite people on.
Robert.
Yeah, you're my favorite. You are my favorite. I like him. I like him as well. But you are my favorite. So yeah. But you know, I just find it like, for me, I studied business studies in school. I've been playing professional soccer since I was 14. I turned pro when I was 14. And when I see you guys on the show, I just can't actually, because I see people walk in, right? And I'm like, oh, I give them a deal. And you come out with all this unbelievable spiel to them about, you know, all these different things. And I'm like, wow, they're so smart. You know? And
I don't know. We try.
No, but it's amazing. Like, and I'm just completely hooked to it, you know? And like, you know, when you originally got the idea, how did Shark Tank come about, and how did they come about asking you to be on it?
You know, it was the second season, and it just wasn't working. It was bouncing around from this night to that night. And so they had me audition. And so they threw all these questions that literally I had to audition, right? And what I've never said before, I was so hungover. It was awful, right? It was awful. And
well, clearly not that awful, because it worked.
But you know, and they're asking me these questions. I'm just trying to breathe, trying to look and act normally, right? But you know, it's natural for me. It's like when someone walks onto the pitch, right? You know, somebody who has to think about what they're going to do, and someone who understands the game, right? And they already know where people are going to be, and what the next pass is going to be, and what the next play is going to be. And that's the way business is for me. So it was really natural for me to just listen to any type of business and just say, okay, I know what's going to happen. I know what's going on. And they liked it, right? And I'm not shy, right? I'll say whatever's on my mind. I mean, you know, I'm just telling you, there's so much editing. If they only put out there what I actually say half the time instead of like making it nice, oh, it's brutal.
Really?
But it's fun, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing because, you know, for me, like, there's no such thing as overnight success, as you obviously agree to that as well. And I think sometimes it's the same in every aspect. It's not just soccer and sports. It's the same in business, you know, and I think sometimes people see people at the top and they just think they woke up there. And that's
no, business is the ultimate sport.
Right.
Business is the ultimate sport, right? Because, you know, when you're playing a match, you know how long it's going to be. You know who the opponent is. You get to scout them out. And then when you're done, right? And then you have an off season and then you get to work and you can work harder. In business, you don't know where your competition is coming from, right? It could be some 12-year-old from the UK. It could be some 80-year-old from Nigeria. You just don't know, right? And so you always have to be pushing forward. It's ongoing, 24/7 by 365. And that's why I like it, because I'm competitive, right? I'm just really competitive. And so it's always like bam, 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 right?
Not, but is there, and I've lived in America now for 10 years, right? And that's something that I try to explain. Whenever I do TV shows over here and they're like, what's the biggest difference? I'm like, the competitiveness, the mentality. And they're like, what does that mean? And I'm like, they just love winners. And they believe they can do anything they put their mind to. And that's something that I really, before I moved to America, when I got drafted there 10 years ago, I sometimes felt a bit like an alien in England sometimes, where I was like, why is it that I feel out of, this doesn't feel like my personality is mashing because I'm too competitive, or, you know, people don't get me. And it wasn't until I moved to America that I was like a little fish in a big pond. I was like, yes. And that's why the US women's national team, as much as it kills me to say it, that's why they're #1, because they don't believe, you know, they fired their coach in 2007 in China. They fired their coach because they got to the quarterfinal.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
I know, it's crazy.
Ruthless, but at the end of the day, and then they won the next World Cup. Do you know?
Yeah, but look at the men's soccer team. Look at men's soccer. We can't get it right to save our life, right?
I know. It's crazy. But, you know, I always think the same as Messi, Ronaldo, you know, some of the top players in the world, people just automatically think that they just woke up one day and they were great. And it doesn't work like that.
No, the amount of work you guys put in. I mean, I see it with the NBA, you know, and it's a little different from country to country because different countries have their top sport, right? Where is the most visibility? Where do the best athletes play when they're youngest, right? You know, obviously in England, it's going to be soccer first, you know, and then maybe rugby, and then basketball is all the way down at the bottom, right? Yeah. And in America, it's the exact opposite, right? Now basketball is kind of first, and then football is kind of falling, baseball is falling, and soccer's moving up.
Yeah,
and so I think you'll see some changes.
That. From when I first moved to America 10 years ago, no one played soccer. Yeah. Now, when I go to the park, I see everyone playing soccer. Like, and to be honest, it's the same as when we were at an Eagles game when I was in Philly, and these guys came over to my dad. Like, we do not know American football in England. We just don't. And my dad was throwing the football in the Eagles car park. We were tailgating. And these guys came over to my dad and was like, dude, like, no. Because they couldn't believe that he couldn't throw the football. So when I see guys in America that couldn't kick a soccer ball,
that's me.
Like,
that's me.
This?
Yeah, when I grew up, man, soccer, we didn't even have soccer at my high school, right? We didn't have it in my middle school, none of it. I go out there and kick the ball with my kids, and I'm awful. I'm always like the worst parent. Like, put me basketball, any other sport, I was good in all the other sports, but I just never played soccer.
Well, so, I think you're pretty decent. I've seen some of your TikTok videos with your daughter. So
yeah, you know, I got my jam on, right? Hey, I'm ready to get Ben out there on the pitch. I'm ready to get my rugby day. You know, I played rugby for a long time. I played in college. Yeah, I played after college. I played in Dallas and Pittsburgh, in
Where
Indiana.
Did you go to college?
Indiana University in Bloomington, Indiana. Yeah, and so we've got a decent rugby squad, great 7 squad. So I go back, play the old boys games and all that.
Because like rugby's, I don't feel like rugby's that, like the same as lacrosse in England. We don't really have lacrosse in England, and like rugby in America, I've not seen many people playing rugby.
No, rugby's going up a little bit, right? Like, I'm a huge fan still. Like, you know, in college it's not bad, but there's not really anything after college, right? And so there's like Major League Rugby, and USA Rugby's a mess, but the Eagles are getting better, right? You know, we've beaten some teams, and starting to hold our own now, and like I think we beat New Zealand in 7s, and so 7s we're not bad at because it's mostly speed, right?
Well, 15s, you know your stuff.
We're not good.
You know your stuff about rugby.
No, I love rugby. Literally, after basketball, after basketball, rugby's my second favorite sport.
Wow, that's amazing. So, Mark, I wanted to talk to you about like things like goal setting and stuff like that? Like, because obviously you're successful and that comes from somewhere, you know. So what was it that made you like, how did you become so successful? Did you set goals? Because I set goals all the time.
Yeah, of course.
Right? But
yeah,
obviously you're 4.2 billion net worth, you know, like that
crazy.
is on a different
Crazy.
Maybe it's more now. Maybe it's more.
I don't,
you know, I think it's gone up to 10 billion. I think so.
It's enough. Let's put it that way. It's enough. I don't have to worry about it.
No,
yeah,
but
I mean,
I'm saying that there's no shame in saying that, because I think people should be able to say what they've done and be successful. And I think that's another thing about America that I enjoy, that people are not ashamed to say, I'm good at something. As opposed to in England, we're very like, oh, I can't say I'm good because people are going to think I'm arrogant.
No, I am arrogant. I don't care. No, look, when I was struggling, I would drive around in my car with the hole in the floorboard, right, that barely made it from place to place. I would drive by all the big houses. I would drive by and try to like get motivated. And, you know, when I was struggling, I would, you know, read books about people who had been successful and just try to, you know, push myself and get excited. And, you know, my goal was always to retire by the time I was 35. Because like my dad did upholstery on cars. So if you had a rip in your car seat or whatever, you know, you took it to where my dad worked and he would work on it. Never went to college. My mom never went to college, did odd jobs. And so, you know, he always impressed me that time was the one thing he didn't have, you know, because he was working every single day. And so my goal was to retire by the time I was 35. Because
when did you set that goal? How old were you when you set that goal?
Like 19.
And you
18,
were like,
19.
And what were you doing at that point? You were struggling.
I was in school.
You said, okay.
I was in school. Yeah, I was in school, just doing whatever, paying for my own school, trying to figure out a way to figure it out, right? And so it's just, I figured if I could retire young, then I could just have fun, right? And so, you know, I like a lot of people, I started off just getting jobs, but I wasn't a very good employee. I would quit, you know, 9 months in, I'd quit, I'd get fired, and then I just got to the point where, you know, I just had to face the fact that I was a lousy employee and I had to do something for myself. And then, you know, I was living 6 guys in the 3-bedroom apartment, sleeping on the floor, you know, eating just junk, you know, going to a pub.
These are the things that are so, you know, when you can relate to people, like I said, like you've been through a lot, and it's not like you just woke up and you were a billionaire. It doesn't work like that.
No,
you know, you had the right mind, you had your goals, and I'm a big believer in visualization. You know,
yeah, you got to get a little lucky too. You got to get a little lucky, man. You got to bust your ass, you know, and you got to be in the right place, right time. Like if you would have been born 20 years earlier in the United States when women's soccer was nothing, what would you be doing, right? Yeah, I happened to start my business in technology when the internet stock market was just busting out. And I was already, by that time, I was already successful and I was retired and I could stay retired. But I mean, I wasn't at this level, right? So to get to this level, to get into the billions, you got to be lucky. I don't care what anybody says. You got to be lucky.
Think so?
Oh yeah, you got to be good. You got to work hard, but it's a question of scale, right? I was retired before we started AudioNet. We started the streaming industry, which is where I made all my money, right? But if it weren't for the internet stock market just being outrageous, then it just never would have happened, right? Okay, you know, I would have been rich. I would have had fuck you money, but I wouldn't be at this level.
No, but it's like, you know, that's what this coming back to what I was going to ask you about. Like, you know, when you're on the show on Shark Tank, do you set yourself like a goal of how much money? Like, because I'm sitting there and I'm like, you guys just reel off this money, like, you know, and I'm thinking, do you guys have a individual thing where like, you know what, this time around I'm going to spend this much, or do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. The other guys on the show, they have a budget. I don't. I just like, if it's a good deal and I like the people, and you know, so it's 2 types of deals on Shark Tank. One is, am I going to do it for the right reason? Can I help somebody? Because that's what I love to do now. At this point, I'm like, if I can help young entrepreneurs, if I can help people get their companies and help grow them and really help them go to the next level, particularly if it's somebody that's disadvantaged and really hasn't had a shot, if I can give them a little lift and give them a chance, then I'm going to try to do those kinds of deals. And so it might not seem like on its surface it's a great business approach or business idea, but you know, I think I'm good at what I do, and so if I can help them, I'm going to do it. And then there's some that come on that are just great deals, and like I'm getting that deal no matter what because they've got the whole package.
Yeah.
And so
I think that's pretty obvious though when I watch the show. I think that's why you're my favorite, because I often see that, you know, if there's a kid on there, because I feel like sometimes I'm like a sucker. I see a kid and I'm like, ooh, like they should get a deal because they're like doing something good. And it's like, but I often wonder, I'm like, because, you know, when I watch Shark Tank, it's like, obviously money, you have to be careful, but you're like, I'm thinking, oh my God, they spent so much money, this particular show. But what do you think it is about, what is it that you do where it makes you say, I'm going to give them a deal? Is it sometimes when they walk in, you get a good feeling from them before they've even spoke? Or
no, I got to listen, right? Sometimes, like, so the way it works is we know nothing about them when they walk in, but we see the setup just like you do on TV. So they're setting it all up for us, right? And so sometimes you'll see it and there'll be like a product idea. And I'm like, okay, if they're even halfway decent, I'm going for this. Or there's other ones like, I don't like kids products, you know, because it's just a hassle, right? The baby industry is a hassle. You know, I'm not big on pet products. Every now and then I'll do something if there's some good angle. So some of those I'll just like say it's not going to happen. But if I think it's something unique, it's like, wow, I didn't think of that. Then I'll start paying more attention. But then they walk in and we know nothing about them.
Right.
So they just start giving us their pitch. And, you know, I try to listen for things that make me think that they've got something unique about them, something that gives them an edge, right? Mm-hmm. Again, it's no different than sports. There's different types of talent, right? There's athleticism, and there's a lot of people with athleticism. And then there's people that have skill and different types of technique. And then there's people that have the first two, and then they're workers and learners, right? And they're coachable, right? And so if I get through the first two, I want to know, are they coachable? Are they learners? Or do they think they have it all down and, you know, they don't need any help? Because those, like teams, like sports, those are the ones who don't make it, right? You know, it's effort in business like it is in sports. And that's what separates the great ones. Like you talk about Messi, etc. Man, they work harder than people ever realize. And business is no different. You know, you can't just put in, there's, you know, people talk about, well, I'm trying to strive for work-life balance. You can, right? I'm not saying you can't make money and pay your bills and be okay, but not if you're going to be the best.
Right. No, it's true. I mean, someone like yourself, like you probably don't sleep and you probably don't stop, or do you do?
I need my sleep. My sleep, but like I'm the type, when I was rolling, like when I was doing everything at the beginning, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and take notes or type up notes to myself.
I'm the kind of person that like my brain works. I work at night, like especially with the jet lag. Like I flew from LA, like it's been 2 weeks now, but all I want to do is be awake all night and sleep during the day. So now I'm kind of getting used to it. But I'm the kind of person that like, I'm very good at survival mode. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
so like,
yeah, perfect sense.
In school, I didn't love school. I'm not going to lie. I turned pro when I was 14, so I was still in school. Yeah. And I was traveling all over the world, but my parents were like, good. My school was great. They gave me the work and stuff. But like, I feel like I learned so much when I left school. But when things get difficult, I'm able to think on my feet. Do you know what I mean? So like,
I know exactly what you mean.
I don't freeze when things get difficult. I often come alive when things are difficult. And I love pressure. I absolutely love pressure. And like, whenever there's a penalty shootout in a game, I'm like, I'm taking the first one. And I always do that if it's a penalty shootout, because I love pressure. Like, I can't bear, like, I've had teammates before that I won't name, but like on the day of the game, they'll be like, oh, my hamstring, or oh, my leg. And you know, don't kid a kidder, you know, like, it's like, I can see when people are injured and when they're not, or someone's saying they've got a stomach bug. And I'm like, but then they often play in the game and they do great, but it's the mind, isn't it? Whereas
absolutely.
I'm not going to lie, I get nervous. You know, I get nervous, but I don't feel like I crumble under pressure. So it's like, for me, I feel like I've got a good survival mode where I'm like, okay, this needs to be done, so I'm going to do it. And I set myself goals from when I was 7 years old. Does that make sense? Awesome. And one time in my school, we had to set goals, and they told me my goals were too high. And you know what happened? My dad ended up going down to school and said, don't ever say that to my daughter again. Because
That's awesome. That's awesome.
You know, I was saying I wanted to have a big house. I wanted to live in New York. I wanted to have a second house in Malibu. And I wanted to do this. I wanted to do that. And like all the things I visualized, I don't have a house in Malibu. That's not what I'm saying. But I lived in LA. I'm moving back to New York. Like there's a lot of things in the power of the mind and the visualization.
Oh, absolutely.
But I mean, that my family support my goals and endeavors, you know, because sometimes I've known friends that's families are just like, you should get a real job. You should do this. Because obviously women's soccer, as I'm sure you're aware, doesn't pay the most amount of money. But we have a fantastic life. I have a great life. I feel blessed to be a professional athlete, you know, and mentoring people and stuff like that. But, you know, it's one of those things where I try to look at the positives as opposed to negatives. But my mind, I don't sleep really, because my mind's always thinking like,
you know how I get to sleep? you know how I get to sleep, right? So the only way I can sleep, like if I just try to sleep, it doesn't work, right? And so I have to listen. I can't even listen to music. I put on old time classic radio, and I don't really listen to it, but the minute that something comes on that I have no interest in, right? And it kind of competes, that's what I need to do to fall asleep. I need to have something like I used to listen to bird noises and, you know, just whatever, just to try to drown out what was in my head so that I could fall asleep, you know? I agree with you, man. Like in business, the equivalent is like, there'll be people whose businesses take a downturn, like now when things are all messed up, right? And they start looking for other types of businesses rather than digging in and figuring out how to solve the problems they're in the middle of or how to be agile, right? Because agility is key. If you're going to be successful in business, if you're not resilient, forget it. If you're not agile, because the only constant is change, man. Everything changes all the time. Technology changes, products change, you know, competition changes. And so you got to be absorbed in it. You always got to be there. And it's a little bit different types of pressure because it's not, you know, the game doesn't end, right? It's not like, okay, now we're down to penalty kicks, right? Where now you're on the free throw line with no time left on the clock and you win or you lose. You know, it's not that type of pressure, but at the same time, if you don't do what you need to do, you're out of business. You know, I always, you know, when people tell me, you know, what's one of my skills and what do I try to do to keep business going, I always ask myself how someone would try to kick my ass, right? So if I'm on the outside looking in at my company, I'm like, okay, what would I do to kick my own ass? Because everybody's out there trying to do it, right? And I know better than anybody else. So if I can get there first and keep them away and you know, beat them to the spot, right? Then that's what's going to keep me going. So you're right, man. You've always got to be pushing forward. You've got to not only have your goals, but once you start a business, you got to keep on asking yourself, how can I make it better? Every single day, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm just telling you, you start a company, and if it's in my business and you're not on your game, I'm going to kick your ass, right? And
yeah. Well,
it's just
you,
reality.
I think that's, I think that's pretty obvious. I think that's pretty normal to be that way, but I don't think sometimes people can handle being told when they're not up to par, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm the kind of person that nobody likes criticism, but I like to think I go above and beyond, you know, to make things the best I can possibly be and be the best version of myself. And, you know, I'm always going to...
Yeah, I've seen it in your workouts. I've seen it in your workouts, so I know.
Well, we'll have to get you... We'll have to get you to a game at some point because I'd love to... which leads me on to your team, the Dallas Mavericks.
Uh-huh.
So how did you become like the owner of the team? How long have you been the owner for?
So I've been a basketball junkie my entire life, right? And so one day after I'd sold my company, I was at a game and they were awful, right? And I'm like, you know what? I could do a better job than this. And it dawned on me like, okay, I could afford to buy this thing. And so I reached out to some people and probably a month and a half later, I owned the team. And that was 20 years ago. God,
wow.
20 years ago. Yeah, it's crazy. I was 12. And, and so I just, it was just like, you know, from then it's just been a blur and a dream, you know, it's just been nonstop.
I mean, that's just, I mean, the fact that you're like, I'm going to do this and I did it, you know, it's just, I just find it so inspiring because,
crazy.
You know, it's one of those things where if you do say you're going to do something, you can do it, but you obviously have to have the finances behind you to do that too. You know, I'd love to own Manchester United, but I don't have the money.
But you know what? And it's not easy though, even if you had the cash, right? Doing it, because there's no one easy way to win, whether, you know, you're playing for the team or you see the people trying to run the team and you're trying to win, right? And you're trying to get the best talent, but it's not just talent, it's chemistry, it's effort, it's coaching, it's just that cohesiveness. And so I've had businesses that have been managed well, you know, where I've delegated and it's worked out, and businesses that have just failed miserably because the people I delegated didn't work. And with sports, you know, it's always evolving, right? Because Father Time's undefeated. You know, nobody can play at the same level forever. So you're trying to always get that balance of new, old. The game's changed. There's more analytics. There's more, you know, there's more data in terms of your fitness and in terms of combinations on the pitch. And so it's a challenge to try to keep up with all that stuff to get a competitive advantage. Because nothing bothers me more than another team in the NBA thinking they have an edge on me. That just pisses me off, right? And so it's just to no end. And so I always try to stay ahead of the game.
That's amazing. But the thing is, for me, my ultimate goal in life is to own my own sports franchise. Like that's always my goal. That's something I always wanted to do, whether that be, and it's not necessarily just in women's sports. You know, I have a lot of friends that playing different types of sports, but I want to. The reason for that, I want to make sure that people get treated the way they deserve to be treated, because I've had a lot of experiences, as have a lot of my teammates, where people are not treated correctly, you know, and I know it's sports, but yeah, I want to make sure people get treated from a human perspective.
Right? From the ownership perspective, it's hard sometimes. So for me, it's easier for me because I can afford to do what I need to do. It's like Man U, right? It's like the top teams in the Premier League, they're all treated really well because they have, you know, the players have options because they're the best players. It's when you get down lower where the owners don't have that financial flexibility, and they thought coming in they could all of a sudden turn everything around and make it great, right?
But that's what makes it hard. I think it's more to do with the human aspect, because I think people often, in soccer players in England, like they are highly under the microscope every single day. Like a soccer player can do something, and the person that plays another sport, like no one talks about it. They'll be on the front pages. And for me, I think sometimes people forget the human aspect. Just because someone has money, they're still a human.
We see it in the NBA, same way here in the NBA, right? Whether it's social media, whether it's regular media, right? Everybody, everything you do is scrutinized. And, you know, everybody, you know, if you were reading a book on the sidelines, you should have been practicing, right? Or if you were out having dinner somewhere with your friends, why were you not concentrating on the game? You know, why were you win? Yeah, you can't win no matter what. And so, yeah, we try to work with our guys and just, you know, and plus, you know, in the NBA, and it's somewhat like that with Premier League, you know, the best players, they know they were the best players, right? And they've been under a microscope since they've been younger now, because social media's been around long enough that, you know, the last 10 years, if you were in the public eye at all, even if you were 15 years old or 14 years old, you know, everybody knew who you are. And now coming into professional sports, you know, you're going to have Instagram, 200,000 Instagram followers, you know, and it's just like, yeah, it's just a different beast.
No, it is. It's true. I wanted to ask you, like, what do you like to do in your spare time apart from dance with your daughter on TikTok?
That, like, when I'm done here, I've got a little court in the backyard. I like to get up shots. That's the way I clear my head, right? Just to get up there and shoot and listen to the ball go through the net. Work out.
I guess you've still been able to like do your business stuff even during quarantine, because you're
because I did most of my stuff from home anyways. I'm not a big going to the office guy. I haven't been for 15, 20 years. And so, because I hate meetings. So I push everything to email, you know, or DMs. And so, you know, and so I'll work out. Before quarantine, I go play pickup still. Well, I like to read. Play with my kids, just normal stuff. Nothing like outrageous. I'm not like a skydiver, you know, big rush type guy. No, that's not my thing.
Nah. Well, Mark, honestly, I can't thank you enough for talking to me today. I still can't get my head around it that we've had this conversation.
It's great. No,
I just wanted to say thank you, and I hope that we can connect sometime in real life. You know, I'd love to come to a game or have you come to one of my games or something like that. But honestly,
absolutely.
Like, you're such a top guy, and the fact that when I asked you to do this, like you said yes, like I really appreciate you giving me the time. And, you know, I know a lot of people have really enjoyed listening to you. A lot of people are like, Mark Cuban for president and stuff like that.
Not gonna happen.
You know, I really think you're an amazing guy, and I can't thank you enough for joining me today. And, you know, have a wonderful day. And
you do the same.
And my friend. And,
thanks for having me on, and keep on blazing your own path. That's what was impressive about you, man. You just get it and do it your own way, and I'm always a fan.
Oh, that means a lot to me, Mark. Thank you so much. All right.
My pleasure. All right, y'all stay safe.
Take care, Mark. Bye.
See ya.
Wow, what a guy. What a guy. Wow, guys, that was amazing. I can't quite get my head around that. I just was able to speak to somebody that I look up to, and I know a lot of you have written on here. Thank you so much for your comments. And for those of you that have joined in today, Mark is an amazing guy, inspiration, and an inspiration to me. And there's not many people that I look up to where I'm like, you know, what an amazing, amazing guy. But genuinely, like, nice guy. Can't thank him enough for joining me today. And yeah, I just can't get my head around it. Who else would you guys want to see on here? Feel free to drop me a DM. For those of you that have never met me before, that are joining me because you're Marks fans, I'm Leanne Sanderson. I'm a professional soccer player. I play for England, Juventus. I played in America, and I've lived there for 10 years now. So, yeah. But thanks, guys. Thanks to everybody for joining me today. Big thank you to Mark Cuban. It was wonderful. What a really great guy. So much fun. So, yeah. Have a wonderful day and take care. Bye.